Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Tuscaloosa. I am Ruth Van Lillian, the minister. We are a covenantal community founded on love and a common devotion to our free faith. As the days lengthen and spring peeks out from behind the robes of winter, let us welcome each other into this virtual space. We especially welcome those visiting with us today. We are so glad you are here. We invite you to connect with us through the comments or on our Facebook page or website. Our mission and ministry are to invite all into a welcoming community, to inspire in all a free and responsible spiritual journey, and to involve all in building a just and peaceful world. We join with all member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association in affirming and promoting the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Black Lives Matter.
Hey everybody, I'm April Trussell-Smith. I'm this year's stewardship chair, and stewardship is starting tomorrow. Starting March 1st. We're going to spend the whole month of March talking about stewardship, talking about UUCT, talking about our mission. Our theme this year is recommit, to reinvite, re-inspire, and re-involve. Our mission statement is to invite all into a welcoming community, inspire a free and responsible spiritual journey, and involve all in building a better world, or a more just and compassionate world. And I think having been away from church for just about a year at this point, we are going to have to, when we are able to meet again, we are going to have to recommit ourselves to that mission statement, so that we can move forward with vision into a great future for UUCT. And so I want us to spend some time thinking about that during this month of stewardship. Think about what makes UUCT valuable to you and valuable to Tuscaloosa, and what are you willing to do? What are you willing to give of yourself, of your time, of your passions, and of your money to support UUCT and be sure that it continues to exist in Tuscaloosa into the future. So each week you'll be hearing from members of the congregation about what UUCT means to them and their connection to the church and their connection to the mission statement. You'll get a pledge card in the mail. You'll be hearing more from me about how to give and what other exciting things we have going on this month. So I hope that you'll all take this time to, as I said, think seriously and deeply about what UUCT means to you, and about how you will recommit yourself this year to the mission of our congregation and to its continuance in perpetuity. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Steve Borelli. I'm the lay service leader for today. If you want to follow along, you can access our order of service through the link below in the comment section. If you're not seeing the comment section or the link, if you're watching us on a smart TV, for example, you can use YouTube. Go to our UU Congregation of Tuscaloosa YouTube channel through the YouTube app on your PC or your smartphone or your tablet. There's also a number of important announcements in the order of service, so I encourage you to read it carefully. Our church website and Facebook page also have information about upcoming online activities. And finally, we have a listserv that's called NewsNet that members and friends can use to keep up to date on church activities. So we leave no stone unturned in trying to keep everybody up to date. We also invite you after the service, immediately following the service, to an online coffee hour, which will enable us to fellowship with each other and build community. You can see the link for the online coffee hour, again, in the comment section below, or if you're on NewsNet, in the email that you received recently about today's service. The prelude prepares us for today's service.
We invite you to light a chalice of your own at home. This might be a simple candle in a bowl or something more elaborate that you've made or purchased. We light this chalice as a beacon of our faith and as a reminder of our commitment to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We worship together, though we are at a distance, by celebrating that which is sacred to us individually and collectively.
Our opening words are adapted from those by the Dalai Lama. In giving, we not only find wealth, but we achieve spiritual prosperity. Therefore, we all have to practice giving. Giving is not just overcoming miserliness and being generous to others. A pure wish to give is cultivated, and through developing more and more intimacy with it, such giving is enhanced infinitely. Therefore, it is essential to have the mind rooted in great love and compassion, and from the depths of one's heart to give as infinitely as space.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love.
This is the time in our service when we share with one another our joys and our concerns. If you're watching live in the Zoom service, you can put your joys and concerns in the chat now. This morning, we are thinking of Jackie, who is nearing the end of her time of surrogacy. Continue to remember the many, many people affected by the cold and the storms in Texas. We're celebrating today because we have an internet upgrade at the church building, which will expand our ability to offer online services. Let's spend a moment of silence together, and I'll close us with a few words. Let us remember not to let our lives be ruled by fear or by anger, but to look for the good everywhere that we go, to trust in the love in the human heart, and to always take hope and encouragement from the joy of community that we share together. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be. And I will light a final candle for the joys and the concerns which went unspoken today. Good morning. So glad you could be with us today. I have a story to tell you. It's an old story with a new twist. Once upon a time, in a small farmyard, there was a little red hen. And one day she decided that she was hungry for bread. "Who will help me cut the wheat?" "Not I," said the cow. "Well, I'll just have to do it myself." And she did. "Who will help me thresh the grain from the stalks?" "Not I," said the horse. "Well, I'll just have to do it myself." And she did. "Who will help me grind the grain into flour?" "Not I," said the pig. "Well, I'll just have to do it myself." And she did. "Who will help me knead the flour into dough to bake into bread?" "Not I," said the duck. "Well, I'll just have to do it myself." And she did. And soon the smell of baking bread wafted across the barnyard, and the animals gathered to look at the gorgeous golden loaf. "Who will help me eat this bread?" said the little red hen. "I will," said the duck. "I will," said the pig. "I will," said the horse. "I will," said the cow. The little red hen looked at all of them. No one would help me cut the grain, or thresh it from the stalk, or grind it into flour, or knead it into dough to bake the bread. But the little red hen had a kind and generous heart. "All right, I'll share my bread with you," she said. And she gave each animal a piece and had a small piece herself. But in a few minutes, they were all complaining. "We're still hungry. That wasn't enough. We want more bread." And the little red hen looked at all the animals and said, "If you want more bread, then you will have to help. Now, who will help cut more wheat?" "I will," said the cow. "Who will help me thresh the grain?" "I will," said the horse. "Who will help me grind it into flour?" "I will," said the pig. "Who will help me knead the dough and bake the bread?" "I will," said the duck. And they worked together, and soon the smell of baking bread wafted across the barnyard again. And the animals gathered around, and now there were many delicious, wonderfully golden loaves of bread, and they ate, and they ate, until they were full and there was still more to save for another day. And they all looked sheepish, including the sheep. And they said to the little red hen, "Thank you for teaching us that we can do so much together, so much more than any of us can do by ourselves." Have a great week. Bye-bye.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Out of gratitude for all we've been given and all we have now, we share our resources because we love and trust one another, and because this church enriches our lives and empowers us to make our whole world better. We rely upon each other, members and friends, and we appreciate the payment of pledges and generous donations to support the legacy, vision, and work of this church community. Contributions may be made through PayPal by using the link below in the description, or by mailing checks to UUCT. All undesignated contributions will be divided between our Split the Plate partner and our congregation. Our Split the Plate partner for this month is shown on the screen as you're listening to this. Please mark your pledge payment to UUCT in the comments field on PayPal or the memo line of your check. If you prefer to write a check directly to our partner organization, please mail it directly to the address we include in the description of this video. The offertory music will continue in this window as you open a new window to make your contributions. By the generosity of our hearts and the work of our hands, our love is made real. Thank you for your generous gifts.
Sometime during my first year in my first parish, I had a realization about preaching. I really had nothing new to say to my parishioners. For most of them, I was not telling them anything on any given Sunday that they had not heard before. Most of them had attended church for years and been taught the Bible and had a fair idea of the basic teachings of the church. As a Methodist minister then, my job was to stand in the pulpit every Sunday and find a new, fresh, interesting way to tell them things they really already knew. My role was to remind them of the truths they already believed in and to challenge them to live out those truths more faithfully. As a Unitarian Universalist minister, it seems like this is still pretty much the case, though the truths have expanded and are expressed somewhat differently. The basic truths are unchanged. Today marks the beginning of our 2021 stewardship campaign. Recommit, re-invite, re-inspire, re-involve. You will soon receive stewardship materials to review, consider, and follow in order to make your annual financial pledge to support the ministries of this congregation. All Unitarian Universalist congregations are self-supporting, and every member is expected to make and fulfill a financial commitment every year. See, here I am, telling you something you already know. Why should I do that? Why do we need to have a stewardship campaign? When people join, they're told that pledging is part of the membership commitment. Why do we need to go to the trouble of holding a campaign to get the pledges in every year? I attended a webinar on stewardship recently held by the UUA, and in a breakout room, I talked with a lovely fellow from a church about the same size as ours up north. And he told me that this year would be their second stewardship campaign ever. The congregation is about 25 years old, and they just had their first campaign last year. Prior to that, they had just informally reminded people periodically to please send in some money, support the budget. I asked him how the income compared from before to last year in their first campaign. He laughed and said the stewardship campaign yielded the most pledged and paid income by far. It was the first year they'd made their budget and ended the year in the black in decades. Why do we need a stewardship campaign? Why don't folk just give generously without being asked? Well, most of us have not been taught to be joyful, generous givers. Our middle-class history promotes frugality as a virtue, and even among those of us who are lifelong givers, there are many who feel held back from giving by the fear of not having enough. Learning to share, cultivating fearless generosity is a spiritual practice. And like all such, if we practice doing the practice of generosity, it gets easier, and our enthusiasm for it will increase. Why do I, as your minister, need to remind you of what you already know? Well, the same reason I need reminding also. There is much to distract us, to pull our attention away from the things that really matter. Many of you know that I have made a financial pledge to this church every year I've served. While my salary did not increase this year, and there were some understandable reasons for that, I increased my giving by 10% to my current level of 7% of my gross income. I will admit that I have delayed payments a few months here and there, mostly because I forgot or I got distracted. But I've caught up each time. And I just wrote a check to pay the remainder of my pledge for the current year, including the additional 2 months that the board requested from all of us to allow for the recent change we've made in the fiscal calendar. Why am I telling you this very personal information? Well, because I am your minister, and one of my roles is to set the example for the congregation. I don't ask you to do anything I am not happy to do myself. I ask you to support the ministries of this church because I value them. I believe so much in the work of this congregation and its potential to make a difference in Tuscaloosa that I am happy to give of my own financial resources to support it. If I asked you to recite our congregation's mission statement, could you do it? Oh, how does it go? Imbue, empower, and ignore. No, wait, that's not it. Inside, intense, intel. Nope, still not right. Wait, I've got it. Invite, inspire, involve. Yes. Invite all into a welcoming community. Inspire a free and responsible spiritual journey. Involve all in building a just and compassionate world. That's it. Where does stewardship fit in with our mission statement? Well, it's the grease to the wheels. No stewardship means no commitment, no volunteers, no money, no effort, no nothing. No stewardship means no mission and no ministry. No stewardship means no congregation. Let's look at the first part of the mission statement. Invite all into a welcoming community. Stewardship will determine the nature and efficacy of the invitation. How we invite and whom we reach with our invitation will depend on the number of members who recommit to their membership vows of promising to give of their time, their talent, and their treasure. The strength and effectiveness of our invitation will depend on who will give these things and how generously they will give. Do we need a new website with brighter colors, better pictures, animation, music, dancing dogs, and trapeze artists? Depends on stewardship. Does our Facebook page need a facelift? Do we need to up our game with our church's YouTube channel? Do we need to get UUCT on Instagram and Twitter and Discord? Do we need billboards and banners? More radio time? More advertising? Is it time for us to get out into the community more and offer the invitation in new ways instead of just waiting for all those closeted liberals to find their way to us? How can we expand our campus ministry program to reach faculty and staff as well as students? Could we start a small group ministry in a separate location? I personally like the idea of a Unitarian Universalist vehicle in the spirit of the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. What would that look like? Something chalice-shaped with Black Lives Matter banners and rainbow flags trailing behind. Would we play UU hymn tunes and stop at the corners to offer free coffee and hummus? Could we rent a parking space near the stadium and have evangelistic vegan tailgating on game days? And when they arrive and encounter us in some other setting, will they find the welcoming community they were promised? Is the worship service inclusive? Did we consider whether hymns were respectful of Black, Indigenous, and other persons of color? Or of disabled persons, or of transgender or gender non-binary persons? What about readings, printed materials, the sermon, the presentation? Are the chairs arranged so that folk with mobility issues can maneuver comfortably? Can everyone hear well? Are the building spaces clean, aesthetically pleasing, and in good repair? Are the children's classrooms pleasantly decorated and appropriately furnished? What about the playground? Is the parking lot in good shape? Is the signage high quality, easy to read, and attractive? The answer to all these questions depends on our stewardship. If you, members and friends of this congregation, give generously of your time, effort, and financial resources, you will be able to address these concerns and make your invitation very appealing indeed. Now, are we inspiring a free and responsible spiritual journey? Does free mean financial giving is not necessary? Of course not. The meaning of free in the context of our mission is that every person has the freedom to pursue spiritual growth in the manner that makes most sense to them, while not infringing on the spiritual freedom of others. But what does this have to do with stewardship? Rich was an older dad of a young only child. When I knew him, he was bringing little Nicholas to church on his own and allowing his wife a rare Sunday off to sleep in. Rich wanted his boy to enjoy the benefits of socializing with other little kids, and he was more than a little intrigued by the theological and spiritual freedom of Unitarian Universalism. He told me he had not thought about the big questions for many years until Nicholas came along. Suddenly, he found himself wondering again about things like where we come from and what is the source of the universe. Becoming a father in his 40s had pushed him way out of his comfort zone at several levels. And he found himself doubting his own integrity, his own spiritual authenticity. He said he needed somewhere safe and receptive to bring his questions where no one would force answers on him, but where others would question alongside him and share their ideas while listening respectfully to his. "You really can't put a price on that, preacher," he said to me as he turned his pledge card in, "but I have tried to come up with a figure which expresses how grateful I am to have this church in my life. A year ago, I would never have imagined giving so much to a congregation. But now I see that I can't live without it. And I know there must be a lot more people like me out there that need what this church is offering." Are you inspired in your own spiritual journey in this congregation? How much is it worth to you to provide the same inspiration to other religious liberals in the larger community? Faithful stewardship will launch a new season of much needed inspiration. Now, once we have invited and inspired, how do we involve all in building a just and compassionate world? Well, you guessed it. It's all connected to stewardship. Some years ago, I officiated at the wedding of a lovely young couple, Christy and Ben. Not long after they were married, Ben was diagnosed with an aggressive form of brain cancer. And just after their first anniversary, he died. The stewardship committee felt that it would be pushy and unfeeling to expect her to pledge just a couple of months after such a loss. And so they decided to leave her off the stewardship list. When the campaign was ended, she came to see me very distraught. Why had she been left out? Didn't her membership still count? Didn't she still have a place in the church when she was trying to get back on her feet as a single person again after such heartbreak? She felt betrayed by her church community. Didn't they know she was still committed to the mission? Did they think she was incapable of pledging just because her husband had died? I immediately retrieved a spare stewardship packet and placed it in her hands with my profound apologies. She was absolutely correct. We had no right to take away her opportunity to participate in such a vital part of church life. We were wrong to deny her the chance to practice generosity, to support a cause she so believed in, the mission of her church. She demanded her right to be involved through stewardship to make the world a better place. Stewardship is not just a part of our involvement. Stewardship is at the core of our involvement in the church's mission. When we commit our time, our skill and effort, and our financial resources to support the church's mission, we are involved. If a member is not participating in stewardship, they are not involved in building a just and compassionate world. To see stewardship as a necessary burden we must endure, or as a bill that must be paid, is to do a grave disservice to the covenant nature of our church community. When we join the congregation and sign the membership book, virtually or in person, we make a promise to one another to support the ministry we do together with every resource at our disposal. We don't pledge to the Board of Trustees or the Finance Committee. We don't pledge to the minister. We don't pledge to the UUA. We pledge to each other. There is no expectation that we all give the same amount, but rather that we all give generously from the resources we have. We entrust those resources to one another to make our mission happen here and now. Now, don't you come complaining to me about how you give so much to other charities you just don't have much left to give the church. I support several charities also, but my congregation is at the top of the list. In fact, it's not even the same list. This congregation is not a charity. It's our community, our tribe, our family of choice. Make it your giving priority. And give the lion's share of what you have available to contribute to your congregation. Will the Audubon Society visit you in the hospital? Will Save the Children bring you a casserole when you're sick? Will the Humane Society provide pastoral services when you find yourself in crisis? Will any of your favorite charities offer you tangible signs of friendship, equip you to do justice work, provide fun social events, and real help in times of need? No, of course not. Only a community of faith does these things. Your community of faith is all these things to you and more. Why wouldn't you want to be generous and give as much support as possible to this congregation? It's time to recommit ourselves to the mission of our church. It's time to recommit ourselves to our covenant. It's time to recommit our time, our skills, and our financial resources to support the mission. There's a new season coming, and so much promise in our future. There's so much to look forward to and so much ministry to do. Stewardship is the energy supply for everything we do and everything we hope to do. Let's recommit, re-invite, re-inspire, re-involve. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Please read with me the words at the bottom of your screen. As we extinguish this chalice flame, let us remember that we carry the light within ourselves, which brings healing to a broken world and hope for the days ahead.
Siblings and kindred, it's Stewardship Sunday, and that is a glorious day. It's time to recommit, to re-invite, to re-inspire, to re-involve. Let us go in peace. Amen.